Japanese horror, better known as J-horror, that was popularized by a British distribution company known as Tartan, who later on went to distribute tapes and DVDs called Tartan Extreme. They distributed many Japanese horror titles throughout the world, and J-horror became very popular because of it. It continued on through the turn of the century into the 2000s, and there are many films that littered the landscape long before the terminology rose to fame. But it seems that Ringu from 1998 was the epitome of what J-horror was to become, and helped spread the word about J-horror throughout the world. Western civilization had picked up the movies and loved Ringu. However, it wasn't the only film that brought about this world craze, as I mentioned. There were some before and some after it. And the ones after it are going to be some of the ones I'm going to be talking about today. These are some J-horror films that help paint the landscape of J-horror with many different colors. Today I'm going to be talking about a new box set with 7 such varying titles for J-horror that help paint that landscape with many different types of horror, many different twists, many different horrifying tales that you may enjoy yourself. And it's a box set that's being put out by Arrow. This is J-horror Rising. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review and unboxing of J-horror Rising, which is 7 titles from Japan that occurred from 1999 all the way up to 2007. These films include Shikoku from 1999, Isola, Multiple Personality Girl from 2000, Persona from 2000, Inugami from 2001, St. John's Wort from 2001, Noroi The Curse from 2005, or just Noroi, and also a Slit-Mouthed Woman from 2007, also known as Carved, a Slit-Mouthed Woman. Now, all of these have a little bit of something different to offer the J-horror subgenre, and I got to watch all of these over the course of the last few days. So I have been cramming J-horror, and actually I'm going to be continuing J-horror for Halloween, so happy J-horror Halloween. We're actually doing Dai Gothic, which is a Radiance box set with The Bride from Hades, The Snow Woman, The Ghost of Yatsuya, and after that we'll be continuing on with Dogra Magra, which is something I've never seen before, and I can't wait to talk to you about all of these. Definitely keep an eye out on the screen for all of these films if you are a fan or want to know about films that you've never heard of before. Now, I also want to mention MVD Entertainment sent me out the check discs for this, but surprisingly enough, Resolution 67 sent me out a copy of this ahead of time, and I don't know why, but I got it before the movie even released. I think it was an error in shipping or something like that, but I got it and I figured I'd share it anyway. So, thank you MVD and, Arrow for sending out these check discs, but I did get the actual box set, so thank you Resolution. I appreciate you, brother, and thanks for helping me kind of broaden my horizons, both of you guys, all of you, really. I'm gonna try to get through all of these on J-horror Rising as fast as I can with short reviews of this. I'll give you kind of what my thoughts are on each of these, and then give you a link and unboxing of this afterwards. But let's get started. First off, I decided to watch all of these in order of when they came out, not necessarily the order in which they were on these discs, which there's a couple that are like in between, although there is one that is paired together with another one that was actually a double feature in Japan, but we'll cover that in a little bit. Now, most of these, there's like 4 of them, I think, that were all mastered in HD. They all look great. If you look at some of the old trailers and maybe some of the DVD cuts of this on like YouTube or something like that, This is like leaps and bounds over it. Leaps, okay? Noroi, I think, had a pretty decent cut already done of it, but the rest had none. So this is nice to see all of these in like such clarity. First up, we have Shikoku from 1999. And this is a movie I had never seen before, but I had heard of before, but I just never got a chance to check it out. Now, this story is very much more in line with that curse thing that's going on in the J-horror subgenre. There is a lot of differences in this movie than you will see in other films like it, though. And I think all of the films in this set are very different, and I really enjoyed the fact that they were. Shikoku, which is actually a terminology that they named about 4 different islands or 4 different prefectures in one area. And it's also kind of the name of this one island in particular. It has a lot of history to it, and there's some old lore that they use in this film that kind of helps to paint the picture of this film. The story is when Hanako was a child, she was separated from Fumiya and Sayori as she moved to Tokyo. So 3 young kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. One of them ended up moving away to Tokyo from the island. Now, she's returned years later as a grown-up, but it turns out that Sayori died in a drowning. When Hanako starts seeing Sayori in her dreams, she seeks help from Fumiya, her friend also that they used to be the 3. And things unfold into some pretty crazy, ghostly, afterlife type situations in this one movie. Now, this is by director Shunichi Nagasaki, who did The Enchantment from 1989 and The Rock Requiem from 88. This has Chiaki Kiriyama, who plays Sayori. She was the girl that was in Kill Bill, that was like the kick-ass girl with the ball and chain. And she was also in Battle Royale, who was like the super psychotic one. She's huge. She's a huge famous actor. In fact, she's also in this movie and another movie in one of the set too. What did I think of this movie? I like this. I like the idea and the concept of this movie because there's kind of a thing that's going on in this movie that Sayori's mother is doing to try to bring back the dead. She's practicing some sort of ritual. All of the island starts seeing dead people again. So there's this sort of angle going on. But what happens, I won't spoil, it just is more with the dead coming back to life, love and romance and relationships and friendships. There's definitely a little bit of drama in this one. Not so much horror, but you know, these are dead people coming back to life. So there are some moments in the film that are a little scary. But for the most part, I would say this one wasn't as scary. It just leans more on horror than some of the other films. I enjoyed this enough. I wouldn't say I was blown away by it, but I did like sort of the story and sort of the ritual that the mom was doing and how they were kind of going about it. I had never seen a movie with that sort of story before. And when you think of J-horror, you think of like Ringu or you know, all these other ones that basically have this curse and there's these set rules. You know, this is very different than that. And it is a little bit of a slow burn and a little bit more dramatic, but I thought it was pretty decent. I'd probably say about a 6 out of 10 on that one. The next one, which kind of blew my mind a little bit, was called Isola, Multiple Personality Girl from 2000. And that's based on the novel of Yusuke Kishi, who a director Toshiyuki Mizutani did a movie for. And it's essentially about when a woman is able to read the thoughts of others, she comes to help survivors of the 1995 Kobe earthquake. And she encounters a girl with multiple personality disorder whose dangerous 13th personality, Isola, must be stopped. And man, is this one a mindfuck. The beginning of it actually starts out pretty cool, and you catch on pretty quick that she's got many different personalities banging around in her head, and you start to see them around her. But this movie kind of does some different things with it. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie A Scanner Darkly, which is actually based on a novel by Philip K. Dick. It kind of has that vibe going for it, which is a detective is trying to find a killer who is himself, but it's this movie and they're kind of adding a sort of element of supernatural, being that there's a psychic and multiple personalities in here. and she's not aware of her own self in some way. I mean, I gotta tell you that because that's probably the most interesting thing. This movie does get a little too convoluted, and you really gotta lock in to follow every single step. It does not handhold you, so it is very easy to get lost in this film. And in fact, I had to rewatch it a couple of times, and I finally just gave up after the third time and just let it go to the end because I was just getting a little lost in the dialogue. But it is interesting, and I think there is a good bit of story in there, and obviously a very cool idea, but it definitely gets lost towards the end and kind of loses itself by the end of the movie. This one is a little bit below, I like conceptually, probably above the first movie, but story just kind of falls apart a little bit. So this is probably like a 5 or 5.5 out of 10 by the end of the movie, which is unfortunate, but still very cool. I like the concept. It was a little different. Up next, we have Persona for the third film, which came out in 2000. A lot of movies came out in 2000, by the way. It's based on the original novel by Osamu Soda by director Takashi Komatsu, who did the movie Kaiden from 2005. This is essentially about a student by the name of Danda, who is a kid that gets picked on a lot by the bullies in the school, and he decides to wear a porcelain mask as a direct result of all that bullying. He spurs on a large following of people in school that all start wearing masks, and these masks make them feel like they're in charge and can scare the bullies back, and the whole school starts to kind of join in this underbelly society of masks, and the school doesn't know what to do about it because they're afraid if they take the mask away that the kids will get bullied. But then it gets out of control and the bullies become the mask wearers, and they're doing this underground society of crazy things. I actually really like this movie. I wouldn't say it has any kind of supernatural element to it other than the fact that there is people wearing masks, and they're obviously playing with the idea of you could be whoever you want to be by wearing a mask. And that's sort of the ideology behind here. They also use some people who are supposed to be kind of like models in the film, and those are the people who you would think don't need to wear masks, but they kind of have some sort of ideology with that whole thing. And there's this whole backstory. Surprisingly, for such a kind of simple story, the way that this was shot and sort of the style of it, I thought was actually pretty interesting. And I really don't think this is a bad film at all. I actually kind of liked it more than all the other ones. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's definitely worth a watch. You're gonna have to lower your expectations on the horror, so to speak, but it definitely has a good story in there about bullying and picking on people, and it has this air about it that feels like a horror film, but not really. You sort of uncover the mystery of what's going on by the end of the movie, as this one girl who works for the newspaper in the school is sort of investigating, and it's kind of like that Brick movie. They're trying to figure out how people are dying and stuff like that. So it's interesting. Next up, we got Inugami, which is from 2001. This was actually based off a novel by Masako Bando, which is a woman who wrote a really crazy, dark, really messed up book about living in Shikoku, which is this island, and she actually had learned and felt a lot of discrimination from the people who lived in the city versus her. Inugami basically means dog spirit, and they call it a curse. And there's actually a couple of movies called Inugami The Curse, which is kind of like Noroi The Curse. It's kind of an interesting story about how modern world is clashing with the old world and sort of the superstitions that they have. But the story in this is crazy. It takes a little while to get going, but essentially it's about Akira, which is this new young school teacher who comes into the small town and falls for a secretive relationship with this girl named Miki, who is a paper maker. She does it the old school rice paper way, with real natural flowing waters in the hills of the mountains. She's an older woman who takes care of her family's urn that supposedly holds a forest wolf spirit of Inugami. And you find out more about that later on, but mostly it's kind of like this drama early on about this guy coming to town and sort of falling in love with this girl. And then suddenly people start disappearing and the town starts blaming Akira. There's like a couple of big families that live in here. Family that she belongs to is sort of like a family that escaped to the mountains to get away from the war. Two families, one that runs pretty much everything and is like the rich family. And then there's the bastard family that's kind of an offshoot or branch family. And things get pretty hectic because that branch family is cursed with the Inugami. And Miki is kind of at the head of it because she had a child when she was really young. She never knew what happened with it. They told her, I think, that it died or something like that. But there's this whole backstory on where that child is, and you find out later by the end of the movie. But man, was this shot really well. This is not so much a horror movie as it is sort of the perils of like superstition and the, like I said, the modern world versus the old world sort of clashing. The director, Masato Harada, who did the movie Gunhead from way back in the 80s, Last Samurai, Hell Dogs, and Badlands recently. He does a fantastic job of really kind of imagining this novel into the story that it is, and the characters are just so good. The acting in this is stellar. Like, there is some sexual moments in the film, but they're very tasteful, love-making scenes. Beautiful work in this movie. I mean, honestly, I think this is probably one of the best movies out of the entire set, but probably the least horror. But I loved it. I thought it was like an 8 out of 10 or higher. It's one of those ones that's gonna take a little time, a little slow burn, but honestly, it's lacking in the horror. But please, if you like any kind of movies at all, watch this film. There is a lot of crazy shit that happens, and it kind of has like an old boy twist at the end. So it's pretty fucked up. But yeah, definitely highly recommend this one. He considers this to be a gothic horror movie, even though he wasn't really trying to make it a horror movie. He said he was inspired by Ingmar Bergman's Hitchcock film called Spellbound. I fucking loved it, like genuinely loved it. I think it's like one of the best films in the box set. Up next, we got St. John's Wort from 2001, which this was actually a double feature with Inugami. They actually put these out at the same time, and I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people got mad, is because they showed St. John's Wort first, and then the double feature was that one afterwards, and a lot of people were like, what the fuck? But St. John's Wort is about a game designer and his girlfriend Nami, who drive out to a decrepit mansion that she has just inherited. And they want to film it, of course, or this guy wants to, because he wants to make a new game based on the house, this giant mansion that she got, for a new video game called St. John's Wort, which just so happens to be her mother's last dying words. And she's not sure why. She doesn't even know what St. John's Wort means, but supposedly in old poems in Japan, it means revenge. And so there's something with that going on in this story. Now, this is by director Ten Shimoyama, who did the Shinobi, Heart Under Blade, and Blue Hearts. And this movie has like this like super kind of try to aesthetic that they're doing a lot of colors, and they're trying to do some weird techniques with like video game 3D technology on the screen. At first, I was kind of turned off by it, and it took me a little while to kind of acclimate myself to it. But there is actually some genuinely dark and kind of spooky atmosphere that goes along with this movie as they sort of go through the house step by step. There's also some different things that happen in the movie. As you would expect in a haunted house movie, you'd think, well, the cell phones aren't going to work, right? No, they're like on the cell phones with their friends, telling and sending information to each other the entire movie. In fact, their friends at the base of operations for their video game headquarters are actually kind of sleuthing with that guy and that girl about what this house is uncovering. They find keys into rooms that they didn't have keys for before, and they start to uncover a past of her that she didn't even realize existed. In fact, she might even have a significant brother or sister or some kid that she had when she was a little girl. She seems to remember this sort of thing that happens, and things start to occur in the house where they get attacked, and It's got some pretty interesting story in here. It's not exactly executed really well, but honestly, I think this is kind of one of the better movies in the box. I thought it was a little too much style over like atmosphere, but the atmosphere is still there, and it still has this kind of weird, crazy story that you sort of find out by the end of the movie, and it takes some turns that I wasn't expecting, so I have to give it credit there. I would probably give this one like a 6 out of 10. It was definitely keeping my interest. Could even go up a little bit. I would definitely rewatch it. We have 6, and this is going to be probably the biggest pull for this box set, and that is Noroi The Curse, or just Noroi from 2005. Now, this is by director Koji Shiraishi, who has done a slew of different other horror films in the genre, like Grotesque, Occult, Hellgirl. He did a couple of Dark Tales of Japan, like shorts on there. He did Sadako versus Kayako, which I really enjoyed. It's funny. And we got Sayori, which he just recently put out, which is sort of like a curse movie, and it was at the festivals. I did a review of it if you want to check it out. I'll put links on the page. But this story is about a journalist by the name of Kobayashi. He's studying paranormal stuff he has for many years, and he goes missing one day on the trail of a case about this girl, and he's trying to complete this documentary, and so people are going through the footage to figure out what happened to him. And what begins as an investigation into some sort of strange noises soon evolves into a chilling mystery of demonic entity named
Kagutaba.
And I think some of the most impressive thing about this movie in particular, even though the last time I watched it, I was not as much of a fan as I watched it this time, I think what they do best is sort of lore building. This is sort of Japan's Blair Witch Project, if you will. And they did their own version here, and this was like one of the first ones that did it. And like, it is pretty popular amongst a lot of people, whether you're in the West or in Japan. They took a lot of time to kind of research some of the old stuff and kind of add new lore to it, new characters, new situations, and the breadcrumbs that they follow in this path are very interesting and kind of keep you, going to the very end when you find out what really happened, which I think is pretty cool. A lot of people say this is extremely scary. I would definitely say that this is more scary than most of the films in this box set, but it's up to whatever you feel. I personally don't think it was that scary, but just like the Blair Witch Project, it hasn't really stayed up to date with the times. This one, I think, does fare better than something like the Blair Witch Project because it's more of a documentary than they did in the Blair Witch Project. But I think they did a really good job in this one. I would give this one probably like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. It went up for me a little bit on this watch, and so I think when last time I watched it for the podcast, it just wasn't hitting. Up next, we got a Slit-Mouthed Woman from 2007, aka Carve the Slit-Mouthed Woman, from director Koji Shiraishi, who just did Noroi The Curse and many other films. He has 2 in this set. And this one is about a suburban town in Japan that becomes victim to what is supposedly known as an urban legend of the Slit-Mouthed Woman, a woman's spirit with a horribly disfigured face. And her intent is to kidnap kids for some reason and cut their face to their ears or something like that. They don't really explain why. Now, this one I didn't really get into as much. Now, I know the lore, and I'm not sure what people really thought of this movie. A lot of what they do in this character felt like a person rather than some sort of supernatural force, but it does deal with a lot of like possession, and he did actually do another sort of movie, which he did Senritsu Kaiki File Kawasugi File number 1 in 2012 with the Slit-Mouthed Woman. And I believe it's even the same lady. But yeah, that's more of like an X-Files story that he did. And like, it's about them kind of tracking down different paranormal events. This one is much more like a movie, and it involves this woman who has a child who they're kind of distanced from because she did something to the child that the father has now taken custody of the kid. She sort of overreacted on something. And it's kind of this story where that woman, who was also a school teacher, oddly enough, which I would think that if something happened with a kid, they would just yank her out of teaching kids, but anyway. She basically has to search out this woman. She falls into like this story and tries to sort of investigate what's happening to this town of people as she's sort of meeting other people. This one girl disappears that she's sort of watching after, that she was a teacher for. She sort of takes the responsibility of trying to help find her because of the guilt she feels for it, and a bunch of crazy stuff happens. But the Slit-Mouthed Woman didn't really scare me by any means. A lot of the scenes were like done in the daytime. Like she just literally appears sometimes and you're just like, oh, it's the Slit-Mouthed Woman. They did do some pretty cool practical effects on her mouth and stuff, which I thought was really cool. But for the most part, I just wasn't really into it. Still found it kind of enjoyable, although like some of the tropes in it were a little, nothing new. Does have a sort of twist in the movie, but not really. And they do have a little bit of gore in this film, so that was kind of nice to see. Definitely feels more in line with like the J-horror thing than some of these. But ultimately, I would say this one's probably like a 5.5 out of 10 for me, maybe a 6. It's easy to follow, but I just found it lacking in a lot of areas, and it felt like there was a lot of fluff in between. It just wasn't as invested in the characters as much as I was something like Inugami. But yeah, definitely an interesting box set. I feel like it's kind of broadened my horizons, and I really enjoyed it for that reason. And so not all of these are going to be for everybody, but if you are the type of person who really kind of wants to just explore new things like me, because that's what I do. I like to find new horror and kind of get acclimated with it so that I can be a more well-rounded reviewer, so that you guys can find new movies that you like and are interested in. I actually kind of like this box set, and I'm really glad I got it, actually. Inugami for it alone, Noroi obviously for one of the best things, and then St. John's Wort, and then maybe like Persona, although it's kind of up in the air there with those two. They're very close. But a lot of different stuff in here that I think you might like if you are into Japanese horror. It's only $60 on Amazon right now. I'll put a link down below, and I'm gonna go over some of the extras in here. I'm not gonna go into full detail, but I'm just gonna try to go over what it looks like, what you get in the box set, and some of the features on here. I know this is a long video, so I don't wanna take forever, but at least wanna get you some of the deets on this, okay? So let's get into it. So obviously up front we get here this red box, which, it's got all the titles on the side, so you can put that in your section here. You get like 4 little smaller, thinner kind of DVD cases or Blu-ray cases. 3 of them have 2 movies on it, and one of them has just the Noroi Curse on it, because like I said, that's going to be your main pull here. The case itself is, it's pretty good. I like the artwork on the front. They do artwork for each of the movies. There is no artwork on the back. The J card is on here, which I really wish they would start putting that cover right here on all of them, so it just sits in there and you don't have it just kind of hanging off there. I know some people throw these away. I like it because of all the stuff that's on the back of the features, because otherwise you have to go through the discs to find it, and I like to have it right here. On the inside, we do get a poster here, so it is sort of a mixture of the cover and the Slit-Mouthed Woman here. Also, we get a booklet here that is really cool. It has every single movie, a little story about it, and kind of the background on a lot of it. I didn't get to read all of it. It's actually a really thick book on it, and I spent days watching these movies, guys. So yeah, I hope you appreciate it. I know that this video is probably not going to see as many likes or views, but I hope that you share it, because there is a lot of work that went into this video. Let's see, starting off with Shikoku and Isola, multiple personality girl. Got the front, side here, the back. You get some extras on here. It is in a 1080p, obviously, original Japanese. All of these are done in original Japanese 5.1 and stereo for all of the films. and except for one of them, I think, is not 5.1, but the majority of them are. So this one also has a brand new audio commentary on Shikoku by the Japanese cinema expert Tom Mess. Brand new audio commentary. The Aftermath. Tom Mess discusses J-horror at the turn of the millennium, which is kind of like the intro to this whole thing. So if you're curious about J-horror and you want to learn more, he does a really good kind of breakdown of everything after Ringu and a little bit before. Something in the Water, a brand new interview with Shikoku director Shinichi Nagasaki. Archive interviews with directors Shinichi Nagasaki and actors Chiaki Kiriyama and Yui Natsukawa on Shikoku. There's an archive interview with actors Yoshino Kimura and Yu Kurosawa on Isola, multiple personality girl. On-set footage of the filming of Shikoku. Original trailers and TV spots of both the films. Image galleries for both. The disc and stuff, you get some cards in here on each of these. On the inside, you do get the reversible, but since there's two movies, you get two artworks on it. So, you know, obviously you can only do one, but I just kept it on the new one. But it is nice to see the original covers on there. The disc is definitely done with some of the new artwork. And then some of the stills from the movie, which is pretty cool here. And then you have the Shikoku. There she is, Chiaki. Very famous. Up next, we got the carved the Slit-Mouthed Woman and Persona, which, by the way, carved is like the last one, but they put it on here with Persona. I'm not sure why. On the inside here, you get the two different covers, the disc, carved mouth Slit Woman, and original stereo audio from Persona, optional English subtitles for both films, brand new audio commentary on the carved Slit-Mouthed Woman by Japanese folklore expert Zach Davison. Why So Serious? A brand new interview with Carved, the Slit-Mouthed Woman, director Koji Shiraishi. Weapon of Choice, a brand new video essay on the Carved Slit-Mouthed Woman by Japanese horror specialist Lindsay Nelson. Confessions of a Mask, a brand new interview with Persona, director Takashi Komatsu, and image galleries for both films. Pictures, I wonder if I can show all these, but this one was like a love story of the Shikoku. Two more. We got this one. This is Inugami in St. John's Wort. You can pause if you want to look at some of the artwork there. We get the two covers, St. John's Wort and Inugami on the other one. This one is St. John's Wort. Some of the artwork. And the extras on this one are brand new audio commentary on the Inugami by Japanese cinema expert Jonathan Clements. Brand new audio commentary on St. John's Wort by Japanese cinema expert Amber T. Dog Days, a brand new video interview with the Inugami director Matsuha Rada, who does a really good talk for about 30 minutes, I think. I watched almost the whole thing there. The Making of St. John's Wort, archival featurette, archival interviews with St. John's Wort actors Megumi Okina, Yoichiro Saito, and Reiko Matsuo, and Koji Akura. On set, behind the scenes footage of the filming of St. John's Wort, original trailers and TV spots for St. John's Wort, and image galleries for both films. And then last but not least, we get Noroi The Curse, which I think for this one, you know, I'm gonna use the original cover here, but for the sake of time right now, I'm gonna put it on the back so I can read the extras on it. But you can kind of see it has the original cover from Noroi The Curse here, the family and their eyes blacked out. The disc. The extras, the features on here is brand new audio commentary by film critic Julian Singleton, director's point of view, a brand new video of interview with Noroi The Curse director Koji Shiraishi, which is pretty great. The Man in the Shadows, a brand new interview with Noroi The Curse producer Takashige Achise, And Changing Perspective, a brand new video essay of Noroi The Curse by Japanese horror specialist Lindsay Nelson. Ectoplasm Worms, which is the psychic guy in the movie talking about that. But it's a brand new video essay of Noroi The Curse, Japanese cosmic horror by Japanese cinema expert Amber T. How to Protect Yourself Against Curses. Pursuing the Truth About Kagutaba TV special. And over half an hour of deleted scenes, trailers, and TV spots, and an image gallery. It's all here in this Arrow box set that I think is actually a pretty good deal for $60 if you go get it now. Normally it's about $100, so if you're a fan and you're thinking about getting it, follow the link down below. Big shout out to Resolution for buying this actual set that I got early. Thank you MVD Entertainment and Arrow for sending out the discs to check it out. And I hope you guys got some information out of that. I know this is a very long video. I'm going to try to whittle it down, but I wanted to at least talk about it. There are 7 films in it, and so there is a lot to cover. Thank you guys so much for enjoying the content and sharing the content. It's the only way I exist. So if you know somebody that likes Japanese horror or would like my channel, please share it with them, because that's the only way that I grow and reach new, great people like yourself who enjoy this content. I've definitely got more Japanese horror on the way for Halloween. So we're going to be covering Dogra Magra and Dai Gothic. If you are not a fan of this stuff, stick around. I think I'll find something that you will like and maybe interest you in something you never knew you would like. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for continuing to be a part of Beyond the Void. And as always, long live the Void.